Yo, Kwandan.
We big up you all like Jack Academy. Burnt Savannah. Savlamar. Yo, Negril. Kingston. Spain Town. Portmore. Yo, Mandeville. 100 million or nothing for Jordan. From you looking at me, I know I'm a charger.
Welcome to Blue Blood TV Season 6 and the final episode 20. Welcome back, college fans, to another episode of Blue Blood Rivalry TV podcast. And this season has been a roller coaster for both UNC and Duke, and we're here to break it all down. We've got Will joining us again, dissect UNC's heartbreaking loss to Alabama in the Sweet 16, and of course, Darryl Brunson. He's going to share his thoughts on Duke's thrilling win against Houston and the tough Elite Eight matchup against NC State. So buckle up as we dive deep into the Tar Heel season and we analyze what went wrong against the Crimson Tide. And we'll also hear from Darryl and the Blue Devils' exciting run and how they fell short of reaching the Final Four. Before we jump in, please take a moment to like this podcast, share it with your friends. And guys, are you guys ready to get started?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to start. Darryl, we're going to go to you second because Will's team was out first. So we're going to start with Will. Will, what were your takeaways from the Alabama game? Talk to me, Will.
Man, it was a tough one. I thought we played well enough to win that game. And I may have an unpopular opinion here, but sometimes you just lose a game. I don't necessarily think you can point to one thing in particular. There were 3 or 4 different things that I could think of off the top of my head, but I mean, Alabama's good. They're a good team. Look at them. They're still alive. So they were able to do the same thing to Clemson that they were to us. And sometimes you just hit a wall against a better team. They showed up that night. And
so they were better than you, Will.
Absolutely. Yeah. They just made a few more plays. I think we played a pretty good game. I think that some things could have happened differently. Obviously, you don't want to see Withers try to take that 3 down the stretch there. I think that if RJ was the first game, he hasn't made a 3-pointer all season, and he picked a poor time to do it. But sometimes things just happen. So yeah, it was.
You know what it's called, Will?
What's up?
You know why he did not make those 3-pointers?
Why is that?
It's called defense, Will. It's called defense. It's called having a bigger, faster guard in your face that's long, that doesn't allow you to see the rim. That's what it's called, Will.
Yeah, but I mean, he still hit one against UConn earlier in the season. Tennessee's the exact same way. We've played bigger, faster, stronger, better teams, and he was still able to squeeze one out of them. We lose by 2. If he makes one, we win.
I believe he saw his Eskimo twin go out there 0 for 9 and decided to join him.
Will. It's called Sweet 16, win or die. It's called survive in advance. I mean, the level of defense in these games is different. It's different. It's the problem.
We still dropped 87 points. The defense wasn't as great as we think it is. I mean, yeah, these guys are bigger and stronger and wanted to bully us, but we still scored 87. If he's able to squeeze one more 3 in there, that's a 1-point UNC win. I mean, you can talk ifs, ands, and buts and all that, but sometimes you just hit a team that's hot on the right night. They dropped 89 against Clemson the following game. So it's one of these, yeah, their defense, they did play defense when it mattered, but we still scored 87 points.
But Will, if you shoot slightly better from the 3-point line, you win that game.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
The point is, you had what did you do in the rebounding, Will? Talk about rebounds, offensive and defensive.
We were out rebounded. Okay. They're bigger than us. That was the thing, is they played more physical. If Armando doesn't miss a wide open dunk in the second half, that's a tie game going to overtime.
Well, it's exactly what I said to you at the beginning of the season when they played UConn the first time. I said, Carolina's a nice team.
Yep.
But I don't think Cadeau, RJ backcourt is going to be long enough to handle the elite teams. Darryl, did I not say that?
You did. Can we talk about Elliot Cadeau basically sitting, in the second half along with
So
Seth
did
Trimble?
so did Trimble. I think if you want to point one thing out, I don't think it's Alabama's defense. They allowed 87 points again. You can't I mean a defensive effort where you allow 87 points really isn't the best defensive effort. You just made a couple of more shots down the stretch. I think the key to that second half was if you look at it, Trimble and Cadeau are not 3-point shooters, and they had 4 3 points combined, four 3-pointers combined in the first half. And
Okay, but
then largely
yeah, they were
benched
the
in the
first
second
two.
half.
They were their first 2 3-pointers that they made, and then they didn't make any more. And then the coach went on national TV and said, Elliot Cadeau has not made a 3-pointer since March 3rd. We're going to leave him wide open. And they left him wide
So
open.
he hit two. So Elliot Cadeau,
Darryl, did they leave him wide open? And then
Wide open. I really think we need to talk about Hubert Davis and coaching, man, because I think 3 players for the future just took a big hit in confidence. Talking Jalen Withers taking a shot that he shouldn't have taken from the 3-point arc, right? And you probably got an earful when he got to the locker room after that loss. And then you sit 2 of your future stars, basically the entire second half, and now they have confidence issues moving forward for next season. And so I really think that Hubert Davis, in a way, his coaching probably should be questioned as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that he didn't develop, like Jalen Washington has the size that you needed, and Hubert refused to develop him. And the way you develop a player is you give him minutes. Jalen Withers needed to be developed, and he didn't allow him to develop. So when he needed to go big against Alabama, or if he got to UConn or wherever he got going down the stretch, he wasn't big enough.
Yeah, the problem with that, though, is that you can't just trade a big for a big. You can't just put Jalen Washington in there and expect him to be able to cover one of these bullies from Alabama or UConn or whoever. Jalen Washington is a finesse type of player. You can't put a finesse type of player in against a brick wall in another big guy from Alabama. It doesn't work that way. So I don't think. I mean, we scored 87 points, guys. Like sometimes you just hit. What?
How long do you watch Nelson Cook? So he watched Nelson Cook them for almost like 5 minutes straight before he puts in Withers, which was a great adjustment, by the way. It was a great adjustment, but came a little bit too late, in my opinion, because
so by the same token, so the Alabama coach is talking about how Cadeau hasn't hit a 3, so we're going to leave him wide open. Nelson had 6 points the entire tournament before they played us, and he had 24 against us. Sometimes you just hit the hot hand. Right? Sometimes it just happens.
But Will, he said we're gonna leave him open. We're gonna leave him, and we're gonna leave Trimble wide open, and then we're gonna double where we need it. We're gonna go double. So how are you gonna find a 3-point shot when your hot hand is gonna get doubled? When he comes off the screen, there's someone else is gonna chase him. And this is the things that we talked about earlier, Will. We talked about Cadeau's. I said when he goes down the stretch, he's not going to be able to get to the paint. He doesn't shoot well enough. I'm not sure this is the point guard. Darryl, we're going to go to you. What were the biggest factors, the most significant factors behind Duke's success against Houston?
I think we have to start with Shed going down, right?
Honestly,
arguably the best player, definitely the leader of Houston. I think him going down made a big difference, and so I think that's the number one thing I would do disservice to our fans if I didn't mention that. However, I will also say Kyle Filipowski had a pretty good game. He shot 3 for 5 from the 3, stretched the floor, and he was in there gritting and grinding for those rebounds we've been talking all year. He had 3 offensive boards, 9 total rebounds, and that's what we've been looking for throughout the season. Jeremy Roach also. Even though his efficiency wasn't great, I feel like he stepped up as far as being a leader. When they needed a bucket, he got a bucket. And those 2 guys in that game made the biggest difference.
Yeah, Jerry Roach got 14 points. But again, I think if Sheed was, as you said, if Sheed was there, Duke would have been out. They only scored 54, 51. What do you think about the scoring in this game? And when we got through like 15 minutes in the first half and we're at like 18 points. What were your thoughts on that?
I felt like I was watching a middle school game almost. And I will say Houston's one of those grit and grind teams. So Houston was was, in my opinion, in their bag. They were right where they wanted to be. What I love to see was that Duke could play that way and still compete. Like I said, we've been talking all year about how small Duke is, but Duke 13 offensive rebounds. They out rebounded Houston, and Houston's a pretty small team, but they're pretty athletic as well. So it was nice to see that in Houston's game with Shed going down even, but playing Houston's way, Duke still found a way to win. That was great to see for this game.
And Houston also only shot 25% from the 3-point line. I think Sheed's in there. I think they shoot a little bit better, and I think they win that game. Do we agree?
What did Will say? Ifs and buts, candy and nuts. What a wonderful Christmas it would be. So, 3-point win. I don't necessarily disagree with you, Hassan, but I'll take the victory.
All right, we're gonna go back to Will. Will, I'm on you. I'm on you.
I know you are. I know you are.
I'm on you today. Okay, let's talk about UNC's inability to shoot the three. Why, Will? Why? Why couldn't they shoot the three? Did he not get? Did he not sleep in the Holiday Inn? What?
I mean,
what happened to RJ? Did he not get a good night's sleep?
I don't know what happened to him. I mean, he was doubled. I mean, we just talked about it. And when you're doubled, he's already not a big guy. We've been talking about that all season. So if you've got two bigger guys in your face, you're not going to be able to make a lot of shots. I think it really just came down. I'm not going to say that Bama played superb defense, because when you allow 87, I don't necessarily think. I think Houston played superb defense and still lost they only allowed 59 in the loss, right? So
54.
a team like that
54.
plays superb defense.
54 in a loss.
Okay, 54 in a loss, even better. But I mean, when it came down to it, Bama made the plays. They just made a few more plays than we did.
Listen, I really think that RJ and Caleb were outside going one-on-one before their game started. Like, I think they were just playing each other, going back and forth, back and forth. By the time both got in there, they couldn't hit a lick.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. He picked a bad night to have an off night, right?
Or did he? Or was Bama's defense superior that day in terms of, we're not going to guard your point guard because he hasn't hit a shot since March 3rd, and we're gonna double where we need to double.
Yeah, and they came out. I think that both teams had a similar game plan, right? Like, if you look at the other guys, the other weapons that Alabama's had with their scores and everything, we basically said that we were gonna. I mean, you look at Nelson, right? The guy's got 6 points all tournament. He comes into this game not shooting very well. He's a 48% shooter from on the season. And the guy comes out and has 24 and 12 and shoots 66%.
That was Larry Legend.
It was. And so we had our guys. Ingram stepped up. I mean, yeah, Armando missed a dunk, but Armando did what he was supposed to do. He had 19 and 12. So these guys came in and essentially with the same game plan, where we're gonna shut down your one or two go-to guys, and we're gonna make the rest of them beat us. And RJ just he couldn't. It was an off night for him.
All right. So looking ahead, we'll play coach. Get your coaching hat on.
Mm-hmm.
There's this thing called the transfer portal, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know anything about that, Will?
We at Carolina are familiar with the transfer portal. Yes.
Does Hubert know about that, Will?
He's done pretty well with it. Outside of Pete Nance, the swing and the miss with Pete Nance, he's done pretty well with it.
Okay. What about Michael O'Connell? Like, what happened? How did you miss him? Was it, you think it was best to go with a young point guard, Cadeau, when he could have taken Michael O'Connell out of the transfer portal from Stanford? It looks like Stanford Carolina is a better fit. What are your thoughts? How did Michael O'Connell get to NC State? Talk to me.
I think with Michael O'Connell, he saw the amount of depth that we have, the amount of bodies that we have at Carolina in his position, and decided to go to State where he'd get a little bit more playing time. I know he and Ingram are boys, and Ingram was working hard to recruit him, if I'm not mistaken. It's just
okay. So let me give you a factoid.
Okay.
On Michael O'Connell. I went to high school with his mother,
Oh,
Tara
wow.
O'Connell, formerly known as Tara Felix, 5'10" shooting guard at my high school. Okay. I know for a fact that his mother is a big UNC fan. I know for a fact that his mother wanted to play basketball and softball at UNC in 1989. I know for a fact that she wanted her son in the ACC. How come Hubert didn't go get a point guard and chose Elliot Cadeau over Michael O'Connell? Tell me.
I mean, I can't speak for what Hubert was thinking, honestly. But I mean, if you look at the way State's played all season, O'Connell and Cadeau are fairly similar in the way that they play. Or
Except
have
Michael O'Connell can shoot, has more experience at the point guard. He looked like a classic ACC point guard. What do you think, Darryl?
Well,
Yeah, definitely. I think O'Connell would have been an upgrade from what Cadeau was and what he lacked. But I do think Elliot Cadeau had a great season personally. I think he had a very good freshman year. Excuse me, first year.
I think Hubert Davis wanted to recruit a point guard, and he wanted a fourth. And I think Elliot Cadeau was a 5-star recruit. He wanted a 5-star point guard, and he got that. But he got a 5-star freshman who lacked experience. The game has changed, so now you not only have to recruit those 5 stars at high school, but you have to recruit the best point guard in the marketplace. And I don't think Hubert did that. There's no way.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, Cadeau's supposed to be in high school this year, right? He reclassified. So did the reclassification hurt O'Connell's chances at UNC?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how a guy goes from Stanford to NC State. I can see a guy graduating from Stanford, having an extra year. This Michael O'Connell kid graduated from Stanford in 3 years. He is a prototypical Carolina guy to bring on campus. And I'm trying to figure out how you don't get him there on campus and he ends up at NC State. That's what I'm trying to find out.
Well, and then what happens? So if O'Connell's only got a year left of eligibility, we're right back in the exact same situation next season.
But we're in the world we're in. We have to live in today's world. Today's world is you've got to go on the transfer portal and size up experience, age to win now. Now, everybody who was missed, who goes to a smaller program or a less competitive program, who shows that now, I can play at the highest level, they're going to be better than the player that comes right out of high school and has to make that adjustment. So if you want to win, if you look at the 6'11" guy from Alabama, I think he was at North Dakota State, and Alabama was the only place that recruited him. And
True.
He said everyone passed on. So what I'm saying to you, looking ahead,
Yeah.
UNC needs to look at their recruiting process, and they need to grab guys that they can get out of high school, train up, maybe sit a year, which guys may not want to do that, right? And they need to go get the most productive athletes that they can that match the university. Your thoughts, Will?
And see, my thought on the whole thing is that obviously, I mean, we've talked about it in previous episodes. I do think you've got to build both ways. And sometimes you miss guys. I mean, Michael O'Connell's a perfect example.
How do you miss a guy when you recruited a guy from the same team and they're both in the portal?
If you've got 3 point guards, you don't need to go out and recruit another 4.
No, but you have no plans on playing the other guy as a point guard. You do not.
You didn't know that before the season started.
Yes, you did, because you recruited Elliot Cadeau. Yes, you did.
He saw the amount of depth at the position and made the decision to go out and get a Cormac Ryan over a Michael O'Connell. It happens. Guys like that happen. You go in to fit a system, and you're trying to fill positions where you can. We had Withers, we had Ingram, we've got Cormac. Paxton Wojcik was a miss, but I mean, that's a guy that we could have. How tall is Michael O'Connell? I mean, that would be the guy that I would say we probably
6'2". He's bigger than both your guards, and he's heavier, wider, more mature. 22 years old,
and that's fine. But when we started the season, Carolina's starting lineup had 366 career starts. They weren't lacking depth.
Yeah, and like
they weren't lacking
100 of them were Armandos.
Yeah, that's fine, but Cormac's 25. Cormac's older than Armando is. That was the thing that nobody talked about all season. Everybody wanted to shit on Armando, and Cormac's older than him. So you've got, I mean, you've got the depth. You've got Ingram's got one more year of eligibility, but he's got 3 years under his, or had 3 years under, or 2 years under his belt as well. So we weren't lacking in experience. It just didn't work out. It was the same with Tyrese Proctor last year for Duke.
Well, I'm going to come back to you on this question. I'm going to give you time. I'm going to go over to Darryl. I'm going to give you time to think about it. But you didn't win. The team was not constructed properly. You had a size deficiency issue that we discussed at the beginning of the season, and it came back to bite you. Carolina fans, download Duke Carolina, the Blue Blood Rivalry film on iTunes or Apple TV or wherever you get your VOD downloads.
Hey, Queen, you know you my guy, right? I'm always putting for you. Night, when you step on the court, I step on the court too. And we in it.
Two games that night. It's the North Carolina game at Duke and the Duke game that's at North Carolina.
When we wake up on game day, there's a knot in my stomach. We've been up since 6 a.m. this morning watching recorded Duke Carolina games.
I watched the Rivers shot
about 15 times.
Yeah.
Rivers on his own. Yes, at the buzzer.
We're here for the Duke game.
And it is 10 hours and 9 minutes until game time.
The Blue Devils win 85-84.
Nothing better than North Carolina and Duke. It is the best rivalry in all of college basketball. Hall of Fame coaches, great players, and usually so much at stake.
And that's it. Carolina's won it.
The fans have as much to do with the rivalry being great as the players and the coaches.
It's 5 hours before game time.
Well, there's no question that the rivalry is there every day in our community.
Can you imagine what it would be like around here if people didn't have it? It would be terrifying.
We are 30 minutes away from tip-off.
It's one of the most exciting events you can be a part of, and I still say it's not the biggest rivalry in college basketball. It's the biggest rivalry in all of sport, bar none.
It's game time!
Darryl, what did you think of the game, and what were the specific plays or decisions you think that cost Duke the game?
So it was a very, very solid start to the game. Pretty good first half, I would say. I think that just coming out, there were no adjustments made at halftime, and they came out and had one of the most atrocious halves I've seen in Duke in most recent Duke basketball, history. And I think the second half really was just a microcosm of the year, man. This game was a microcosm of the year, right? But it was kind of reversed. Duke's year has gone. They started out and played very unlike a Duke team all year, and then have found a way to win in this tournament. And in this game, they played very well in the first half, and then they found a way to lose this game in the second. And I think that John Shire went from having the possibility of saving this season to being right back on the hot seat.
You think he's on the hot seat? I don't think so. I think he's
I do believe that he bought himself another season, but I don't think he's far off from where Hubert Davis was when he started this year. And it was, we expect greatness, right? It's Duke. So Elite Eight appearance is great, but it was the way the Elite Eight appearance happened. You played Vermont. That's a game you're supposed to win. You played James Madison. Nothing to brag about in beating that team. It's a great team, sure, but nothing to really brag about, right? You avoided a lot of the better seeds because they were getting beat by other teams. And it was a survive and advance type of tournament for Duke, but it wasn't a great Duke tournament. And any other school, sure, Elite Eight appearance is phenomenal. But when you're playing at Duke, when you're coaching for Duke, Shed goes down in that Houston game. There are a lot of things that afforded them the opportunity to be in that Elite Eight, and you lost to a school that's right down the road for the second time in a tournament setting. I believe John Shire has to have an immaculate season next year with the recruiting class he has coming in. And if he doesn't, Yes, I do think his job is on the line.
Okay, Darryl, so let me tell you what I see. Okay, Duke the field goal percentage was 32%. NC State's field goal percentage was 46%. From three-pointers, NC State only shot 23% from the three-point line, which was 3 for 13. Duke wasn't much better, 5 for 20 at 25%. But what it tells me, since their field goal percentage was so much higher, that they won, they got a lot of buckets down low in the paint with your boy DJ Burns. That's what it tells me. Okay.
Yeah, DJ. Mm-hmm.
And then what I see is Duke got 43 rebounds to 40 plus 3, but where they lost this game was on turnovers. They had 9 freaking turnovers and 23 personal fouls, right? So that's where I think you get that differential of 76-64 turnovers, fouls, poor three-point shooting, and not going into the paint and being efficient around the paint, which NC State was very efficient in the paint. That's what I see, Darryl.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with that, Hassan, but I think when you shoot 25% from 3, you at some point as a coach have to make an adjustment to say, first of all, Tyrese Proctor was like historically bad. And I can't blame John Shire for Proctor going 0 for 9 and 0 for 5 from 3. Sure. But at some point, you have to find a way when you have Kyle Filipowski, who's towering over Burns, and DR for the most part is guarding Filipowski, right? But you got to find a way to get that matchup, to make that matchup happen, Filipowski on Burns, because Burns has these awkward shots. We love to see this guy. I'm not hating on Burns, man. I'm enjoying watching this tournament run, but he's out of shape. He makes it up half court before they even get before the ball is going back the other way, right? You have to find a way to gas this dude out, to take advantage of him on the defensive end, on your offensive end, and make sure you get him in foul trouble. He had 3 fouls. He should have had 5. Duke's big men, Mitchell and Filipowski, both fouled out. They both fouled out. And they are soft, right? So you don't just become this mid-game grinder, right? You don't just become a freaking hammer masher all of a sudden overnight or even halfway through the game. However, as a coach, you have to find a way to make an adjustment. And that half was so bad, I can't just put that on some 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. As a coach, you got to reel your guys in and make it happen. That half was historically bad. They lost 55-37 in that half. It's unacceptable.
That game looked like the halftime adjustment was just to give up. It looked like
they wanted to go home.
There was no adjustment. They looked defeated at halftime.
Well,
and they were up.
Well, let's just talk about this guy, DJ Burns. DJ Burns, 29 points, guys. 29 points. And I would say
some of the best footwork I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, every point of those 29 points came in the paint. There was no 3-point shots there.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The question is, and you both can go after this, is DJ Burns that good? Is his footwork that good? Is his body weight that he's throwing around the paint that hard to stop when the guy cannot jump an inch off the ground? Talk to me.
Will, you got it, Will.
He had 29 points, didn't have a single dunk or 3-pointer. Like, think about that. That's wild.
What's underrated about DJ Burns? To answer your question, Son, that was a lot of Duke and also a lot of Burns. But I mean, Marquette, he had 4 points. But I think the thing that goes unnoticed, or at least not really talked about DJ Burns, is he has incredible vision. He makes some passes sometimes that you would expect a guard to make. And I think that he lacks in the verticality, he lacks in athleticism, sure. But he does find other ways to make his team better and make his teammates better. And I think guys love playing with him. I heard Jokic even, talking about him one day, talking about how it looks like his teammates enjoy playing with him. This dude is the type of dude you would see at your local YMCA. And who wouldn't love to play with a guy like that?
So here's what Jokic said. He said, listen, I watched DJ Burns lead North Carolina State past Duke, and I think this guy is incredibly skilled. He uses his body in a way that protects the ball, and he's very skilled around the hoop. That's Nikola Jokic. He's saying he sees something Very, very technical with this guy. And what do you think?
Let me give you his four out of his last 5 games. We'll take the Marquette game out. He had 4 points. We'll call it an anomaly. He played UNC in a win, 20 points, 75% from the field. 16 points in Texas Tech game, 64% from the field. 24 against Oakland, again, freaking 75% from the field. And we saw what he did against Duke, right? 29 points, 68% from the field. This dude is finding a way to do it. Some guys make a magical run, and I think now he even mentioned in his post-game press conference after this game, these guys are showing up on time. Maybe he's out of shape for a reason. Maybe he hasn't really given as much effort as he is right now. And sometimes it starts to click for you. And I think he's having this magical Cinderella run for a reason.
When he's got a high basketball IQ, and you can't teach that. You look at the footwork, you look at his vision on the court. He's got the things you can't teach. And 75%, 66%, 64%, 75%, which you just rattled off, that tells you he's taking high quality shots. He's not forcing the ball up. He's not making stupid turnovers that big men usually do, sometimes bringing the ball down or whatever. The guy's basketball IQ is through the roof, man. Yeah, he's out of shape, but nobody can stop him.
Okay, but do you think him being left-handed and doing that drop step to the left and getting on the left block is different for guys trying to mark him, and his ball protection with his 6'9", 350-pound body? I mean, people are talking about that left hand, right? Because a lot of guys don't go left, right? They don't go left and protect the ball that way. Well, Jokic said he is incredibly technical around the hoop.
He has to be. He has no athleticism. Yes, I do think, though, that the unorthodox awkwardness of his left hand being his dominant hand and the moves that he makes, as Will's mentioned, just how he moves with his feet, the things that he does in the post. I think the combination of all of that, that does make him an elite post scorer in college basketball.
Okay, so this next question is for both you guys. Dean Smith once said, it's not what you do in November, December, January. It's how your team is playing in March that decides it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The question is, was NC State the best team in March in the ACC? And when I'm
Absolutely.
talking the best team, if we played the season now, who would win? Would NC State win the ACC regular season title as well if you started now?
NC State's on one of the craziest runs of all time, because if you look at their last 5 games, they lost 4 of them. Right? They weren't going to make the tournament if they didn't win the ACC tournament. And that last week,
away from losing it. Free throw. Let's not mention the Virginia free throw miss.
Yeah, that
comes down as
bank 3-pointer to force overtime against Virginia. Like, they're on a crazy run of crazy runs. And honestly, I mean, it's kind of funny because I'm not sold on Keats being a great head coach. I think he's a decent recruiter. But
I think he did great in the portal. He got TJ Burns out of the portal.
For sure.
Michael O'Connell, who UNC missed on, out of the portal, who desperately wanted to play in the ACC.
Yep.
2 generations of O'Connell wanted to play in the ACC.
The thing is that he was going to be fired that last week of the season. Right? If they didn't win the ACC tournament, he's getting fired. Now he's got a 2-year extension. He's making a couple $1 million on top, and they're in the Final Four. This team is just – I definitely think that for teams like State and even Alabama to a sense, kind of write them off. You look at a matchup against Carolina, and all the national guys are like the ESPN BPI gave Carolina a 65% chance to win that game, and yada, yada, yada. And that eliminates a lot of the pressure. You can go out there, you can play freely. You look at Burns grinning from ear to ear every time he touches the ball, every time State goes down and scores or gets a stop, that team looks fired up. They have no pressure on them. They weren't supposed to make it this far.
All right, Chad, let's finish up the NCAA tournament. State versus Purdue. Who wins? Go, guys.
Purdue.
Okay,
give me the Magical Cinderella run continues. I think Diarra guards Edey, and I'm not going to say he's going to stop him, but I think Diarra guards Edey. Burns continues his run, and I think State actually surprises the nation.
Do
I think
you
that game's going to
think
be a
you
lot
think
closer
Edie
than
can be
people think.
stopped?
No, just contain though. I think if you can keep them to 25 points, it makes a big difference. You can't let him drop 40. You can't let him get so low in the paint, so deep in the paint every time he touches the ball. You're going to be in trouble.
Okay, so what about on the defensive end? Do you think Burns is going to be able to play Edie?
No. DR is going to have to play Edie. I think he actually surprises
No,
some
no, no,
people.
no.
He's
I'm
very.
talking about on when NC State's on offense. Do you
Oh,
think?
this is going to be a DJ Horn game. This is going to have to be a DJ Horn game. I think that Edie is probably at his size is able to stop Burns or at least limit the stuff he's been
Yeah, I
doing. But
think so.
I think this is going to have to be a DJ Horn game, and I think he's capable of leading the team.
And Edie, have you guys looked at the number of minutes he plays? I think he's on the court. He's on the court almost like 35 minutes at 7'4" is freaking amazing. The number of minutes that guy's on the court, he doesn't really come off. So that's going to be interesting. Will, your thoughts? NC State, Purdue.
I think Purdue is just too deep, man. I love the run that State's on, but Purdue's got 8 guys that play double-digit minutes. I think this Braden Smith kid, I think Lance Jones, I just think that these guys, yeah, DJ Horns and O'Connell and Diarra, I think this game's going to be really close. But when it comes down to it, I think that I just don't know if I keep hearing that State's going to have to pull Zach Edey away from the bucket in order to be productive against him. And we talk about DJ Burns' high basketball IQ. I think Zach Edey's got the same thing. I just think he's too smart to be sucked out that far. That dude, he could cut down the net without climbing up a ladder. It's insane. The guy's a giant.
Okay, guys, let's go to the other side. Alabama, number 4, Alabama versus number 1, UConn. Darryl, you're up. What do you predict?
I'm going to take UConn, but I will say people should not be shocked if Alabama gets hot from 3.
Yep.
This is probably the one team that can beat UConn because they can put the ball in the basket and they can trade, 3s for 2s if they have to. And they get hot, as Carolina saw, if they get hot, sometimes they are unstoppable.
Yep.
And Alabama has a big guy who can pull you out of the paint, pull another big guy out of the paint that can shoot the 3. I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. And I agree. Will, I agree with Darryl that
I agree with Darryl completely.
This could be an upset.
I think it's going to be. I think both of these games are going to be a lot closer than people think they are. But in the end, I think you're going to see UConn and Purdue in the finals. I just don't see a way it's not going to happen.
Okay, is that what you got? UConn and Purdue?
I've got UConn and State. I've got UConn and NC State.
Okay, and I've got Alabama, Purdue.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think Alabama, if their big guy can shoot the 3, it's going to take Edey away from the basket, and I think guys are going to be able to get inside. Okay.
I just don't see UConn getting upset, man. I think that 30-0 run that they went on against Illinois. Illinois is a really good team, really big team. And they did it in one of their best players in Klingon only had 4 points during it. So, they can get it done in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I've got Alabama. My upset is Alabama goes to the Final Four against Purdue. Guys, let's go back to Duke and Carolina and let's finalize it. Let's talk about the portal. Let's talk about holes, who's leaving. Darryl, you're up. Let's talk about who's coming in. Tell the fans who's coming in and what you think Duke needs to, and who's going out, and what you think Duke needs to do to win a national championship next year.
So I kind of want to talk about the big 3 coming in. You've got Cooper Flagg, you've got Maluwak, and you've got Isaiah Evans, who's actually local, I believe, out of North Mech in Charlotte. Those 3 are coming in along with a couple other guys in the top 20. But Flagg comes in and he's a starter, I believe, immediately. I believe the same thing, looking at the way the team's built for Maluwak and maybe even Isaiah Evans. Those are 3 guys that could start for this team next year. I believe Filipowski leaves and goes to the NBA. He had a pretty decent tournament. I think he showed people some things that he needed to show them before putting his name in that. And in today's modern NBA, I think he's a very good fit for the league. Now, he's not going to be a star, but I do think he could be a starter at some point. Jared McCain, I hope comes back. But the way he performed, especially in this tournament, I think Jerry McCain could be on his way out. Jeremy Roach is a senior, obviously on his way out. Mark Mitchell probably stays. And he might be the only person that stays on his team. You got Tyrese Proctor, who either enters the draft or enters the transfer portal. I don't see him coming back. Caleb Foster probably enters the transfer portal along with TJ Power. You can name just about anybody on this team, Hassan. I think 90% of this roster changes. And like I said, they have an amazing, outstanding recruiting class coming in. So I don't think John Shire loses a lot, and they need to get in the transfer portal to get those veterans to sprinkle in to make this team mesh a little better. But I don't see most of this team coming back, whether that be through the transfer portal or the NBA draft.
So I think Filipowski needs another year. I think with Malawak coming in, they could put Filipowski as a power forward so he can play his natural position of being a stretch big. And then I think you can add Flag and all the rest of these guys into the mix, right? And I think then you have a team, if you can get Filipowski back, put Mark Mitchell in the portal, I think you have a team that could contend for a national championship.
Yeah, they're going to be a national championship contender next year, the same way they were supposed to be this year. And I think that's why I'm so adamant about John Shire being on the hot seat, because if he has a year similar to this one with the squad he has coming in, yeah, they'll be calling for his head.
Okay, Will, you're up. Talk to me about Carolina. Who's leaving? Who's staying? What do you need?
It's going to be interesting for us next year. So obviously Baycott's gone, Cormac's gone, Paxton Wojcik's gone. We've got a couple of walk-ons that'll leave as well. If you look at the guys who could come back, and I personally think both of them should. I think the two big ones are Harrison Ingram and RJ. And RJ is not projected. I'm not seeing him on any of the draft projections for this year. And I'm only seeing Harrison as a late second rounder at best. So I think both of those guys, if our outlook for next season is largely going to depend on what happens with those two guys. Then we've got three guys, I think, really that need to make a decision. I think Jalen Withers will be back. I think Jalen Washington's kind of a coin flip. I think he might look to get more playing time, but I do think next season with Baycott leaving, we don't have a big man.
You do. You have James Brown coming in.
Yeah, James Brown's more of a developmental guy. He's only 6'9". And he's a guy that I think down the line could be really good, but he's a 3-star.
He's a 4-star.
Oh, is he a 4-star now?
Your 5 stars are Ian Jackson
and Drake Powell. And Ian Jackson's a stud. This kid, I don't know if you guys saw the McDonald's All-American game the other night, but Ian Jackson can ball. And then Drake Powell from Northwood over in Pittsburgh is another guy. He's a local boy.
He's 6'6", from Northwood High School.
Yeah, and
Ian Jackson is from New York, Center Reach, New York, Long Island, Strong Island, shooting guard. And he's a 5-star, and he's a 6'5" 5-star.
And I think both of those guys will be really good for us. I just think that what we look like next season is largely going to depend on what happens with RJ and Harrison.
Okay. All right. Do you think you guys need a center? Do you think you guys need a power forward?
I think so. If everybody comes back and things shake out the way that we think they might, I think Seth might leave. I think Seth Trimble might leave. So I think our lineup potentially next year could be Jalen Washington, Jalen Withers, RJ, Harrison Ingram, and Ian Jackson, maybe. Elliot Cadeau will come back. And then we've got Drake Powell, and then we've got some other guys. So I do think we're going to need a shooter and a big man in the transfer portal. And I'm seeing guys that Jared Haas got fired over at Stanford, so I'm seeing a lot of his guys jump ship. Not sure of who specifically, but hopefully Harrison, if he does decide to stay, could recruit some Stanford boys. We missed out on one with O'Connell, obviously. So
yeah, so I think you got Cadeau at the point guard.
Mm-hmm.
At the shooting guard, I think it's going to be that 5-star Ian Jackson, or he's going to leave. Okay. I think that you have Ingram as your small forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Drake Powell is really a small forward, but I think you're going to have to play him at power forward, right?
Yep.
And I think you never developed Washington, so that's still a project in the making. And so I think that you got to go in for another big man, and you got to go in for a center out of the a center from the portal. I think you need a big and a center. I need you. You need 6'9", 6'10", shooting power forward, and then a low block. A guy can get on the low block, and those guys are out there. They're out there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. There's a kid from Kentucky, Dew, I believe, who's leaving the school. Pretty good inside defender. I'm seeing a lot of ACC teams who are reaching out to him. Hopefully Duke can reach out to him and snag him to add him to the list of guys we have coming in. But I also saw that Keats reached out to him as well. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes from that Calipari program.
Yeah, and I think like Keats has been good in the portal. I mean, he hit the portal delivered for Keats. Don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, Keats has done well. My thing with Keats is it's never been his recruiting. He's always brought in some talent to that team. I think it's just been coaching.
I mean, let's be real though. Well, like we talked about, Kevin Keats would be probably fired if they didn't have this run.
That team was 17-14 before this run.
Yeah, the transfer portal has worked out well for him in the tournament, these tournaments, ACC and the NCAA respectively. But prior to that, Kevin Keats was on his way out. He had like a foot and a half out the door. But I'm very happy for that gentleman. I think that this run has been magical. I hope they win the NCAA tournament for my own personal purposes as well, because State was at 25,000 odds before the tournament started. I put a little wager on them. So I'll be completely honest, man. I'm also rooting for them. I'm going to probably have a State shirt on if they win this next game on Monday.
There you go.
All right, guys, this has been another fantastic season. Will Phelan, with Darryl Brunson, San Pinto, Blue Blood Rivalry podcast. Guys, how did you enjoy your first season?
Thought it was fantastic, man. I definitely enjoyed it. Look forward to it every week.
Okay, how'd you enjoy it?
It's been one hell of an experience. I've really enjoyed myself here.
For sure.
Awesome. Listen, for me, I enjoyed having you. Love to have you guys back next season. Get you guys some more access from the get-go. And this season has been a phenomenal season. And for me, it's been one of the best seasons because I had two guys that really understood the game, really studied the game, and it was a pleasure, gentlemen.
Thanks, man. It's definitely been a pleasure.
You deserve your flowers, man. You deserve your flowers, Hassan. This is an incredible platform, and I think that it goes unsaid a lot of times, but you are providing avenues and the platform for people who don't always receive that.
Well, thank you. All right, fans, this is the wrap show, Blue Bloods TV, season 6, episode 20. Please share this podcast with your friends and tell people about our podcast. And I can't wait to do it again next season for season 7 of the Blue Blood Rivalry podcast. And we out.
We out.
We out.
The Blue Blood TV podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, guys, these shows grow when you share them. So we have a great show here. Share them with all your friends. Make them aware of the Blue Blood TV podcast.
Yo, Kwandan. We big up you all like Jack Academy. Burn Savannah. Savlamar. Yo, Negril. Kingston. Spain Town. Portmore. Yo, Mandeville. 100 million or nothing for Jordan. From you looking at me, I know I'm a charger.